blessing. Don't forget the stuff on the arms, and leaves. And who comes in next? Esau. And Esau has some serious fetishes. Carrying Bambi and Feline. He's got Bambi on his back and Feline under his arm. And they're dripping. Feline was Bambi's girlfriend. I know they looked alike, but they were meant to be, I've always had my doubts about Bambi. Anyway, so he comes in, and Isaac says, "Excuse me, who are you?" And Esau says, "I am your son Esau, who loves you, and especially loves the inheritance that I expect to get from you." And Isaac begins to tremble violently because he realizes that he was fooled by a stratagem. And he says, "Then who was the one who came in first? And he stole your blessing. Ki baruch mivorach oto. He shall surely be blessed." See, that's the part where you can't believe when the commentary said, "Oh, he went along with it." Come on, he's trembling. He does the line with the "surely be blessed." So Esau bursts into tears, which is very sad. Of course, most commentaries these days say that Esau probably had attention deficit, possibly he was on the spectrum, and he was going to see the only psychiatrist in Haran because he needed to be treated with medications for his various afflictions. And the only thing that healed him, what was the only thing that healed him? This is me. His parents apprenticed him to Ishmael, because what did Ishmael do for a living? A, he was an accountant. B, he drove a bus. C, he was a mighty hunter.
Mighty hunter.
Yes, very good. I would have gone with the bus driver. All right. So, and they apprenticed Esau to Ishmael. And he taught him, because I think we talked about this last week slightly, that if you're going to be attention deficit, but you're able to walk through the woods softly, wearing your Israelite moccasins, and you go to LL Bean, and you purchase a serious combination bow, the one that Burt Reynolds used in Deliverance. We won't talk about Deliverance anymore. Okay, so Jacob has to leave because Esau is looking to kill him. And his own mother, Rebecca, the most dynamic of the matriarchs, says, "Sonny boy, it might be a good idea on account of your brother's going to kill you if you possibly left town for a while. Go ride the rails." And he says, "Mama, the locomotive has not yet been invented." "Never mind," she says, "go to Haran." Haran, or as we used to call it in yeshiva, Haran, sounds like you're clearing your throat, is her hometown. And he is recommended to go there. Now, on the way, this is beautiful stuff. I love this. He's in the woods. He has no GPS. And he is such a schlemiel. He has no sense of direction. This is how I felt in New York for many years. It took a long time for me to realize that 32nd Street came before 33rd and after 31st. Okay? And this is a very logical city. Good thing I wasn't in Paris. So he's in the woods. He doesn't know where he is. There's no Motel 6, although a kid like that, he'd probably stay in the Marriott. And so he's very tired, and he lies down, and he picks out a rock, a stone, a smooth stone, lying there right in the woods, then to use as a pillow. And he sleeps, and he dreams of a ladder set up, mutzav lemata, aval ha'ulam olech l'shamayim. The ladder goes up to heaven, and who's on the ladder? Angels. You got angels going up, angels going down. And because they're angels, nobody's saying, "Excuse me, your foot is in my face. Excuse me, can I go around you? Excuse me, you're taking too long." No. Why are they going up and why are they going down? Because you get somewhere. Yes, very good. The day shift of angels is going off duty, and the night shift is coming on. It's very charming. And then he dreams that the Spirit of God is standing right next to him. This is very dangerous, what they call an anthropomorphism. When you say God has arms, God has fingers, God has a head, these things. It's kind of like borderline heresy. But hey, it's in the Torah, it's okay. And God says to him, "Fear not, Jacob, you shall be exceeding great, and the land upon which you lie I will give to your brethren and sisterin and children forever." And this is the best line, okay? Rabbi Lawrence Kushner. See, there are two Kushners. You got Harold Kushner, who wrote When Bad Things Happen to Good People. He was from Natick, Mass. Then you got Lawrence Kushner, who was, I call the sage of Sudbury, because he was in Sudbury, Mass. Big Kabbalist. a big student of Kabbalah.
What's their relation?
They have no relationship whatsoever.
Huh.
I understand that in Massachusetts there are a number of Jews named Kushner, and none of them speak to each other. Okay? So anyway,
So they are related.
no, they're not. Only by tribal ties.
Okay.
Okay? All right. And Jacob gets up and he says, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know. Now, from that alone, Rabbi Kushner, the Lawrence Kushner, who's now in San Francisco painting watercolors, he really shouldn't, says that you've got two eyes, okay? The smaller eye is the diminished consciousness. Once you get into Kabbalah, once you get into spirituality, every so often, seriously, when you're in the right place at the right time, you could be looking at the Grand Canyon, you could be looking at the Washington Monument, you're looking at something majestic. And you realize, in the case of the Grand Canyon, if this canyon is so remarkable, how much more so is the creator of this canyon? Okay? So that's where you have the diminished I, which becomes the larger I. Okay, the larger self. All right. Then, this is a cute part. He takes out a bottle of oil, because in those days, oil was a big deal. What did they use oil for? Olive oil. What are they using it for? Eating. Anointing. What?
Light.
Salad. Yes, they had a lot of green vegetables. So meat and potatoes. No, because oil was a precious commodity. And you're right, it was used for all those things. Sorry? Yes, you could have a nice oil lamp. In some Jewish homes, they had something called the Judenstern. This was not in biblical days. It was a 5 or 6 pointed metal container hung from the ceiling by a chain. And when Shabbat came, you would lower it, you would clean it out, you'd replace the wick, pour in fresh oil, and it would light up your dwelling. You just keep it burning the entire time that Shabbat is going. You don't hang it too close to the ceiling because that tends to burn down the house, which is not a good idea on Shabbat. But anyway, he takes this little bottle of oil off his belt, and he pours it on the stone. And this is a quick oil libation. He's making an offering to God, okay? And he says, surely this is the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And that was the first holy place in, I won't say history, but in Jewish tradition called Beit El, Bethel. Anybody know a temple named Bethel? Yes, Temple Bethel. Yes. And then he's on his way, and he gets to the well. He gets to Haran, and there is a well, which is kind of the middle of town, and it's before they had malls, they had wells, and all the shepherds and the sheep and the goats and the cattle and the camels are gathering, and there's what do you put over the mouth of the well to prevent it evaporating? A cork?
Well cover.
A well cover, yes. Sheepskin, yes, a nice rough look. A rock, a flat rock. And, I'm sorry? A big flat rock, yes. Unless it's a wishing well. Then you throw in a quarter and it says, I wish you well. Okay. Yes. No, this had to be a big well because it serviced the entire community.
Serves all the animals
Really?
and everything. So you need a very big rock.
Put a big rock on and take it off.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes, every day. You know, this was their entertainment. They really had nothing else to do. What are you doing today, Chaim? Oh, I'm going down and move the rock. That's always the point of my day. Now, Jacob is the boss's son, all right? Jacob is Isaac's son, and he grew up in the cattle business. You know, Jacob and Isaac Incorporated. And he calls to the shepherds. Now, the shepherds were pretty much the lowest of the low. They were country bumpkins. They didn't have any education. All they knew is which end of the sheep ate and the other end. Okay. So Jacob calls out to them, my brethren, why do you not roll it is time to water the animals. Why don't you take the rock off the well? And they said, we have to wait till all the shepherds get here because the rock is so heavy. It's so heavy, they needed to have all the shepherds to move the rock. And then, the door of a nearby house, nice looking house, not too rich, not too poor, nice house, opens up, and the most beautiful, gorgeous woman in the world comes out. She is Rebecca, the younger sister of Leah and the youngest daughter of Lavan.
Rebecca.
She's not Rebecca, she's Rachel. I
Rachel.
just changed her name. I like to spice it up every so often. No, Rachel. Rachel comes out.
Rachel.
You know, I'm more used to saying Rebecca than Rachel. And Beth and I, when our daughter was born, we really wanted to come up with a name that was not Rebecca or Sarah.
Why did she come out?
Oh, because she's got to draw water from the well. I'll tell you about my daughter later. Okay. So anyway, she comes out. She's got the jug on her shoulder, and Jacob sees her, and it is Il Folgore. You know Il Folgore? Also not Hebrew. It is the lightning bolt. He is thunderstruck. This is the woman he absolutely adores, and he is so inspired by this rising ardor that he feels for this woman that he goes over to the well and he schleps the rock off all by himself. And that led to the song Roll Away the Stone by Leon Russell and several other people. All right. And they water the sheep together, and afterwards he kisses her. Now, what kind of kiss is this? This is not an I love you kiss, although that's coming. This is a hey cuz, because they're cousins. They're first cousins. Of course, in those days, if you could marry your cousin, why bother dating anybody else? And it will always lead to fascinating changes in the gene pool. Okay, so he kisses her and he lifts up his voice and he weeps because he's so happy that now he's away from home. Hopefully he won't get killed for 20 years by his brother, and he can possibly go home with this young woman because his reservation at Motel 6 did not come through. So she runs back and she tells her father, guess who's in town? And Lavan says, oh good, another mouth to feed. I need this like a lachem cup. And Jacob comes in, and I think he either lives with him for a month or whatever it is. And Lavan says, you are flesh of my flesh. Come and live with me. So he does. He moves in. And he lives there for a month. And after a while, Lavan says, if you're going to keep eating my food, you really should come up with a way to make a living. How would you like, he says, to go with me into the cattle business? And Jacob says, that's a good idea. And once he's working for Lavan, what happens is that he says, I really love Rachel. I really got to marry her. Can we make a deal? And spy versus spy. And Lavan says, you know what? You want to marry Rachel. I'll make you such a deal. Work for me for nothing for 7 years. I'll give you a room and board, and you get the girl. And Jacob works for him. And it says this in the Torah. And the years flew by like days because he loved her so much. And then there's the time for the wedding. And they rent out one of those really nice catering halls, kosher, that abound here down in Florida. And they get the mashgiach, and they have it all very nice. And then comes the time of what usually happens after weddings, and whatever. And then see, that's the thing. You know that the bride is generally covered at these Jewish weddings and Muslim weddings. Well, she must have been wearing stainless steel, because never once does he say, hey, this is the wrong lady. And possibly they slipped him a Mickey Thin in his Manischewitz. But he wakes up the next morning, and behold, it was Leah. And he goes to Lavan, and he says, hey, what kind of bunko steerage game you pulling here? I worked for Rachel, you gave me Leah. And Lavan says, calm yourself. It is not done so in this place that we marry off the younger before the elder. You want to marry Rachel? Not a problem. Work for me 7 more years for nothing, and you get Rachel this time. Is that amazing? See, Lavan, more than that Ephron the Hittite, who sold Abraham the cave of Machpelah, Lavan is it. And the word Lavan means white, but I don't know if that has any relationship to this particular way of acting with relatives. Well, he winds up with 2 wives, and how do you think God feels that he loves Rachel more than Leah? Yeah, is God upset for Leah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So God, in God's way, pulls a bit where Leah gives birth to 6 sons, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zebulun. Reuven means Reuven, behold a son. Because Leah thought, since a woman's value, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to insult anybody, this was thousands of years ago, but a woman's value depended on how many babies, preferably male ones, she could give birth to. Meantime, poor Rachel, is having a problem. And so Rachel says, to Jacob, I can't have a baby, but there's my maidservant, Bilhah. Why don't you marry Bilhah, and she'll have a baby, and I'll be like the very close aunt. This will be like to my credit. So Jacob goes, oh, okay, no problem. One more baby, one more wife, please. And then Leah hits a dry spell. So she suggests to Jacob very forcefully, why don't you marry my maidservant Zilpah? And at this point, Jacob is a pretty busy guy, really. But then Reuven grows up, and he goes out to the field, and he picks mandrakes. What are mandrakes? I know Mandrake the magician. That's not the case here. Mandrakes?
It's what they give Romeo and Juliet to make it look like they died.
Right, yes. Due to my extent... Really? No, that's...
Yeah.
Isn't that mandragon or something?
No,
It's poison.
It's not. It doesn't have to be poison. They use it
Like
for...
ketamine.
Oh,
It
okay.
paralyzes you.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they made them
And
very
some-
sedate. Mm-hmm.
And some people say
Mm-hmm.
that that's what they gave to Jesus for the resurrection. That the woman
Oh.
came and put water on his lips, but they say it was mandrake juice to make it look like he died, and
Oh.
that's how he came back.
Oh, okay. There's well, we don't have to go into that now. That's a different neighborhood. But in this instance, the mandrake, if you look at the mandrake root, and because I'm very into horticulture, as Annabeth will tell you, I grow all kinds of things, not really. The mandrake is shaped like a human body, okay? So it was used for fertility purposes in ancient times. If you ate the mandrake, you were certain to give birth, okay? And she goes to, Rachel is desperate. It's very sad. Rachel is a tragic figure. And she goes to Leah and says, I have purchased your son's mandrakes. And Leah says, is it not enough that you stole my husband? You're stealing my son's mandrakes too. And Rachel says, tell you what, he will sleep with you tonight for the sake of your son's mandrakes. Because they used to do a whole round robin thing. You know, Jacob would come in from chasing the sheep around all day, and somebody would appear and say, hello, I'll be giving you dinner tonight. Okay, and that's really, really what happens. Now, Jacob, aside from being exhausted, he's been in Haran for 14 years, and he figures things have quieted down because Esau's memory is not that strong, and he'd like to go home. So he goes to Lavan, and he says, you know, I've been working for you for 14 years, I got nothing. He says, you got to give me something. And Lavan says, what do you suggest? He says, well, you got sheep and goats. I want sheep and goats. He says, okay. And Jacob says, tell you what again, I will take the spotted and speckled sheep, and you can keep the ones that are solid colors. Black, white, chartreuse, mauve, those are yours. I get the spotted and speckled ones. Now the question is, how do we get the sheep to be born spotted and speckled? Once again, when I'm not growing mandrakes, I am also a sheep expert. And I will tell you, we know in Judaism, this bubamaisa, this superstition, that, for example, pregnant women shouldn't go to a cemetery. Why? Very good. Because, yes, Paul? Because it's a kenahara, because it's the evil eye. Evil eye is very powerful in our tradition. This is not official Judaism. This is stuff we picked up from the Assyrians, the Babylonians. Also, if a pregnant woman is walking down the street and she, God forbid, sees somebody who's handicapped, maybe they have a humpback, or they're blind, could this affect the baby?
Yeah.
Yes, you got to spit 3 times. All right, and we don't actually spit. Greek folks, I mean, I know this only from the movie. They actually spit.
Look like we're going to spit.
Exactly. You're creating a quick water barrier between yourself and the demon. Demons cannot cross water. Witches can only cross water in an eggshell. Do not keep eggshells. Okay? You don't want witches getting on the Staten Island ferry. Okay. So anyway, Jacob takes twigs. He takes these branches. I don't know what plant they are. But he takes his trusty scout knife and he cuts a circular pattern in the branch. So it comes out looking something like a barber pole, you know, with stripes. You've got bark, you've got pulp, bark, pulp, bark, pulp, bark, pulp. You take the twigs. Now you can try this at home. I'm sure it'll be amazing for your sheep. Put it in the troughs where the animals drink during the mating season. I don't want to go there. Okay, so the ewe, okay, because you've got the ram and the ewe, okay? You look in the trough, you drink from the trough, you get pregnant, and what kind of sheep do they give birth to?
Spotted.
Very good, spotted and speckled. So the whole flock is spotted and speckled, except maybe for the black, the white, the chartreuse, off to the side. And who gets the spotted and speckled? And who gets an egg on his face? Not from the sheep. So Jacob sees, he looks, also from the text, and the face of Lavan is not towards him as it was heretofore. Okay? I don't think a day goes by that I don't use heretofore in a sentence. So Jacob and his wives, all four of them, and the several children, because we're up to 12 boys and one girl, Dinah, okay? They leave at midnight. And Lavan, I wrote about this, Lavan finds out, and he goes pursuing them with the armed men of his house. And he overtakes them at some distant point. And Lavan says, "Where are you going?" He says, "Oh, man, I thought I'd leave. See all the sheep?" And Lavan says, "I have it in my hand to hurt thee, except God had appeared to Lavan in a dream and said, Jacob is leaving, leave the kid alone. You put a hand on him, I'm going to smack you down big time." Sounds better in Hebrew. Okay, so Lavan, he's got to let him go. But there's one thing missing, okay? Little idols. See, I have a Buddha in my office. I have a Ganesh in my office. I don't pray to these things. I just keep them around for inspiration. I like Buddha because he's very calm, and I'm usually running around like a choleric. But who's got the household gods? Because she was a little nervous about leaving home. Don't leave home without them. So she's got Rachel. She's got them in her saddlebag on her camel. And she's on the camel with the saddlebag, with the little household gods. And Lavan says, "Hey, sweetie, how you doing?" And she goes, "My lord, I cannot rise for two reasons. Number one, I'm on a camel. And number two, I am in that period for women, and I cannot rise." He said, "It's all right, it's all right, it's all right." So he never gets his teraphim back. He never gets his idols back. And Jacob's on his way. Oh, they do one more thing. They raise a pile of stones. And Jacob calls it Gal Ed, which means the pile of stones, which is a witness. And, Lavan calls it Yigar Sahaduta, which I think is a wonderful name. Also means hill of witness. And they go their separate ways. Quite a thing. I love this stuff. Okay. Oh, and Rachel has already given birth to Joseph at this point, not Benjamin. Any questions? I think we're good. All right. Yes? Very nice. And now the cantor will cant.
you know the joke.
What?
The difference between a singer and a cantor.
No, what?
The singer sing. So that's it. Cant.
Anybody need a singer?
Okay. So let's light the candles.
Oh, yes.
Shabbos candles.
All right. Yes. Okay.
Ladies and ladies, please come forward.
Candles.
Everybody has a siddur?
Yes.
Yes.
Please rise.
No.
Ladies are over here.
He came back sick. And he's better.
Okay, we wave our hands over the candles, we cover the eyes, and we sing. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher kishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu, le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner. Shel Shabbat. Amen. Shalom, Jimmy. Next year,
Shabbos.
Chavez, how are you?
I think
Good to see you. Good to see you, Steve. Chavez.
Yes. It was,
Shabbat Shalom, page number 13. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashem, Elyon,
It's Yom Kippur.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. You still got to ask forgiveness if you know. I remember that.
I'll forgive you if you forgive me.
I'll see you. I'll see your one in Rachel.
Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Say Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, page number 15, Lekuneranena. Lekuneranena, 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 Adonai. Lekuneranena, 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 Adonai. Naria, Naria, Lesui Shenu, Lekabamada Betoda. Naria, Naria, Lesui Shenu, Mizmirot Naria Lo. Lekuneranena, 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 Adonai. Lekuneranena, 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 Adonai.
Page 21, Leilachado D, 21.
Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, ishvi'anu el ha'meyuchad, lavi echad u'shemo echad, v'shemu v'tifer v'titeina. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Likrat Shabbat lekulenecha, ki bekor abracha, begerosh bikehem nesucha, sabat sefer b'kshavat zila. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela.
Please rise, 22, fourth stanza.
Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadoti likrat kala, pelei Shabbat lekabela.
All right, please remain standing. We've got the Baruch Hu on page 28. We'll ask our friend Mr. Arthur Schwartz to honor us by opening the ark. Bow towards the ark.
Marichuech Adonai Avivoram. Baruch Adonai Avivoram. אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בדברו מרים ערבים, בחוכמה פותח שערים, ובגדולה משליטים ומחלים את הזמנים, ומצלל את הכוכבים במשמונותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. מורה יום בלילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור. ומעביד יום ומבין לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך חיים לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, אמרים ברבים.
All right, the bottom of 29 on the right-hand side, we'll read this together. Your love has embraced us always, in wilderness and promised land, in good times and in bad. Night and day your Torah sustains us, reviving the spirit, lighting the heart, informing the soul, opening the eyes, granting us a glimpse of eternity. Because of your love, we shall embrace Torah night and day, in devotion and delight. Beloved are you, Adonai, whose Torah reflects your love. Amen.
ואהבתך ותסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
On 30 we have the Shema, we cover the eyes. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Uncover the eyes. Baruch Shem Kevod Malakuto Olam Va'ed. Reading in the English, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I command you this day, you shall take to heart. Teach them diligently to your children, and recite them at home and away, night and day. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your homes and upon your gates. Right, we'll read silently from the bottom of 30 to the end of the paragraph on 31. Adonai Elohim. Okay, I'm going to use a little executive privilege here. We're going to sing the Mi Chamocha together. 32. Mi Chamocha Elohim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedor B'Kodesh, Norati Lo Tosei
מלכותך רובריך בוקייך לפני משה, סדיארו ואמרו, ונאמר כפל בית יעקב, וידום יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל.
All right, as always, at the top left on 33, we'll go around. If there's someone you know in need of Refu'ahShelemah, quick and speedy recovery, please let us know. And we'll wish them Refu'ahShelemah. Thinking about Howard Shulman, Refu'ahShelemah, Howard E. Lackman, Refu'ahShelemah. Okay. So, yes, sir.
Kaisar Bas Rosa,
Refu'ahShelemah.
Jane Levinson?
Refu'ahShelemah.
fighting the food of the Moabite,
Refu'ahShelemah.
Harry Galvez,
Refu'ahShelemah.
James Basmagian.
Refu'ahShelemah.
Martin Baker,
Refu'ahShelemah.
Tony Regina, Beverly Regina, Wendy Wexler, and Bob Hilly.
Refu'ahShelemah. Yes, Stuart, anybody else?
Nope.
Okay. Yes.
Partner,
Refu'ahShelemah,
Enrico Nastaro,
Refu'ahShelemah,
and Sabrina Sanchez.
Refu'ahShelemah.
Mark Reynolds, Russell Shonda, Serafin Klein, Joel Shankman.
Raisel Batzara.
All right, let's read together the top left English paragraph. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace, and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us with enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praise to you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, over Jerusalem and the entire world. Ufos aleinu sitat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Shamorei sikat shalom aleinu, V'al kol amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim, V'al kol ha'olam kulo. Amen. 34, the Bisham.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ואיני אומר בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וילבש, שבת וילבש, שבת וילבש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם.
Please rise, half Kaddish, bottom of 34.
יגדל ויתקדש שם רבה, יעלמא דיברה חירותי וימליך מלכותך, וחיי כל יום יום וחיי כל בית ישראל. בעלה ובצבא קריב אמרו יברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שבקודשם ולהביא כל ברכתה ושגילתה קדוש וקרתה ונחמתה להביא גם לעמה.
Amidah, stand silent prayer, 35b, concluding on 38, after which you may be seated.
Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru, amen. Page 48. Please rise. Yidgadal v'yitkad Hashem Rabban.
Amen.
Bi'alma divra k'udem yavnik man k'udem v'kayit kol v'yomei kol v'kayit kol v'Yisrael. V'ara v'yizman ganim ve'imra. Yegesh me'era me'orak. Olam ve'yomaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitfar v'yidrov v'yinase v'yitadar v'yidale v'yidale v'shumei kudesha. Leila v'nikol v'nikata v'shinata v'shumekata v'nikimata v'yamel v'yimra. יתקבל אצלות הרמותו דכל ישראל, כדמות נמשמעיה ואימרו. יראי שלמה רבה משמעיה וחיים עלינו על כל ישראל ואימרו. עושה שלום במרומיו, יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
All right, we have the Kiddush next. Page 49. 49.
Wine. Juice is coming. Juice. Oh, wine. Juice. Wine.
I want the real.
Two wine. Juice. Nobody wants me, right?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam molech peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yesharu mitzvotav v'natzavanu Shabbat koshov yava v'natzron ilchilano Zikaron lema'aseh shis Yivyav techiva levikra'e kodesh Se'elitzat mitzrayim Imanu bakarta Yashanu kidashta Nikoranim Shabbat kol shekar Yamahu v'nason Yirifadanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Page 51, we have the Aleinu. Yes, okay. Would you like to open the ark?
No.
No, I need a curtain. Could you curtain you're on the Richard?
You wanna open the curtain?
Okay. Sherry, you wanna help him? Okay, I would call Rita, but she's not there.
Aleinu לשבח אדון הכל, עלינו לייצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כלויי הרצון, ולא שמנו משפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן בשמיים ויוצאי הארץ, ומשה יקרו בשמיים למען, ושכינתו זו, אלוהי מרורים, ובאלוהינו אלוהינו, ארץ מקל וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשם אלוהיך, ולבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ
All right, the mourner's Kaddish. If you're not saying mourner's Kaddish, you may be seated. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Shemei Rabbah, Amen. Yamad Yivrach, Yerutei, V'yamliach Malchutei. V'chayechon, V'yimechon, V'chayei, D'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agalal, V'zman Karev, V'yimru, Amen. Shemei Rabbah, V'orach, V'olam, V'yamliach. Yitbarach, Yishtamach, Yithoar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemei, Tekudishah, V'yelah, Min Kol Birchata, V'shirata, Tishbachata, V'nechamata, L'amiran V'yama, V'yimru, Amen. Shlama Rabba V'nishemaya, L'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom V'yamah, Uyaseh Shalom. Alleluia, Kol Yisrael, V'yivru Yishmei Tevel, V'yimru, Amen. Okay, before the cantor leads us in the Adon Olam, Rita will share.
First, I want to share my thanks.
It's not on.
Oh. First, I want to share my thanks to all of you for making our Jafco Hanukkah toy drive to the Jafco facility. We have many more gifts than that were on the list, and I'm very proud of that because then Jafco can decide to distribute the others where they would like to and to whom they would like to. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this so successful. Tomorrow, Rabbi has his class after services.
Yeah, Hasidism. We did Buddhism, and now we're going to get back to our roots.
Wonderful. You're ready.
Keep going with Buddhism. You're never done with Buddhism.
And this Sunday is the Annette Basloff Finger Holocaust Center for Remembrance and Learning's first event on the righteous of the nations. And I hope that you will all attend. All of these events, and especially with our own Chuck David is going to be presenting, and Stanley Eisen and Gail is going to do an introduction. It's really a very important day. I have invited 4 local churches to come, and I got the most incredible letter from St. Henry's Catholic Church that I will share with you. Unfortunately, they have events that day, but the father at St. Henry's sent the most beautiful letter. I have it posted in the office, and I think this is an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves to the broader community. We're all part of the same world, and we all need to be together. So please come and support Annette's foundation. She is our only survivor, and it's very important. She's our last one. So it's very important to support her. Those of you who are at home watching, if you can make it in on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, please come. You are all invited to everything that we do. And we have you in our hearts. And I know that because you watch so regularly that you have us in your hearts too. If you haven't made your reservation for the Hanukkah Shabbaton, I know that most of you have, but if you know of anyone who would like to attend, please call the office. I'll be in Monday morning to take care of that. On December 24th, our own Cantor Javier is going to be appearing in a concert. A lot of us have tickets already, and that's going to be a temple, Anshe Shalom. No, but I have flyers outside, and there's a telephone number to call. And we want to support our cantor and our rabbi, of course. But you know, there's a lot of people performing at this concert, but you know who the best ones are.
Yeah.
So, and on December 25th, Rabbi is going at 11 o'clock in the morning is going to have a session of Ask the Rabbi. So get your questions ready, because Paul and I have been talking about questions that we have, and I'm sure that you have over the year that we've been together. So write them down and come and let's bombard the rabbi.
Yeah.
Stop him, please stop.
In a nice way. Maybe he'll
Right.
stop talking.
Check the bulletin. There are lovely things for you to do in January, February, March, and April already. But a sweet Shabbat.
Thank you.
Okay.
54. Adon Olam.
No, Survey, no. No, we are still with Qatar. Really? Yeah, no, not yet.
It's not coming up.
No, not yet.
Okay. Adon Olam Asher Ma'olam V'terem kol yitzir nivra Le'et nasa v'chetzot kol Azai melech shemo nikra V'yacharei Ve'hu haya ve'hu omer Ve'hu yiyeh v'tzifara Ve'hu echad ein sheni Le'am shelo Reshis belitzachli, velo haos ve'hamisra, velo eli bekrevani, zur chedli ve'tzara, unisim v'masli, v'nat kosi ve'yonekra, v'yado v'chidruki, v'etishan v'yayira,
Please rise. Pleasant benediction.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'ishmerecha.
The Lord bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha ve'ichuneka.
The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom.
And the Lord turn his face unto you and grant you peace. We'll say amen.
Amen.
Shalom. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Whatever hair I have.